All right, let's talk about something huge. What if we could rebuild democracy itself from the ground up? And I'm not talking about with new laws or different politicians. I'm talking about rebuilding it with pure, unchangeable code.
Okay, let me ask you something. What if an election didn't require any trust at all? I mean, what if you didn't have to put your faith in a single person or party or organization to make sure it was fair? Just think about that for a second. And what if no politician, no election commission, not even the cleverest hacker on the planet could ever change a single vote? Not one. What if the system itself just wouldn't allow it? And here's the big one. What if democracy itself was enforced by mathematics, where the integrity of the whole thing wasn't guaranteed by people who can make mistakes, but by pure, cold, incorruptible math? Look, this might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's not. This is the actual vision behind a project we're going to break down today. It's a system called Ruachnet. Okay, so before we get into how Ruachnet works, we first have to understand why it even exists. And to do that, we need to talk about what its creators call the single fatal flaw at the very heart of modern democracy. And that flaw? It all comes down to one single word: centralization. Think about it. Everything. Voter lists, ballot boxes, the final count, it all funnels through a central point of control. And guess what? A central point of control is also a central point of failure. And when you start looking for it, you see the problems everywhere. You've got these huge centralized voter databases. Well, those can be hacked. The votes are counted by hand. That's just begging for human error, or worse, deliberate bias. The whole process is often kind of murky, opaque. It's expensive, it takes forever, and it just opens the door for all sorts of bad stuff, from fraud to voter suppression. Every single one of these things is another crack in the foundation of our trust. So it really boils down to this, right? Our current systems are built entirely on a foundation of trust. We have to trust the electoral commissions. We have to trust the servers holding all that sensitive data. We have to trust the people counting the votes. But here's the fatal flaw, the core vulnerability of the whole shebang. Trust can always fail. Always. So if the problem is that our foundation of trust is just too fragile, then what's the solution? Well, Ruachnet's answer is pretty radical. They say, don't try to build a more trustworthy system. Instead, build a system where trust is completely irrelevant. The entire goal is to replace that fragile human element with the absolute certainty of cryptographic proof. And this right here, this is the massive paradigm shift. It's a move away from a system where you're just told to trust the result to one where every single citizen has the power to verify it for themselves. We're talking about a leap from faith to fact. So, how in the world does this actually work? Well, the first big piece of the puzzle is the blockchain. Now, the easiest way to think about it is like a digital notebook. But here's the cool part. This notebook isn't sitting on one computer somewhere. Nope. It's copied and shared across thousands of computers, and this is where the magic happens. Once something, like your vote, is written down in this notebook, it's immutable. It cannot be changed. It cannot be erased by anyone, ever. Okay, the second key ingredient is something called a smart contract. And I absolutely love the analogy from the source material for this one. Think of it as a digital robot lawyer. Seriously, it's a program that lives on the blockchain, and its only job is to automatically enforce the rules of the election. It handles who can vote, when voting stops, how the results are tallied, all of it, without any human needing to touch a thing.
So you take those two incredible technologies, blockchain and smart contracts, and they become the foundation for the 5 pillars of the Ruachnet system. First, you get fully decentralized voting. Boom, that single point of failure we talked about, gone. It all runs on a public blockchain, which means the whole process is transparent. Anyone can look at it. It gets rid of that whole opaque problem. Then, your identity is locked down with cryptography, so it's tamper-proof. The rules of the election are run by those smart contracts, which means no more human bias or errors. And finally, every single vote becomes an unchangeable, immutable record, which just completely slams the door on tampering. And if you take away just one thing from all this, let it be this. In a system like Ruachnet, no one is in control of the election. Not a person, not a government, not a company. The rules are literally baked into the code. The system, governed entirely by math, controls itself. That's a game changer. So what we're really talking about here is a massive shift. And it's not just about technology. It's about the entire philosophy of how we govern ourselves. It's a conscious move away from a system that basically begs us to trust people and institutions, and toward a system that asks us to trust something universal: mathematics.
I mean, look at this. It really puts it in black and white. For hundreds of years, democracy has basically been a social contract built on trusting other people. What Ruachnet is proposing is a totally new kind of social contract, one where the foundation isn't a handshake or a promise, but a mathematical proof, a verifiable, objective truth that anyone can check for themselves. The creators themselves sum up their whole philosophy with this really powerful line from their white paper. They say, "We believe that power should rest with the people. Our blockchain ensures it stays that way." And that's so key, right? The technology isn't the point. It's just the tool they're using to enforce a fundamental principle.
So, we've covered the what and the why of Ruachnet. But I bet you're still wondering about the how. Like, how exactly does this technology build a fortress around every single vote? Well, in our next explainer, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving deep into the mechanics, into the code itself, to show you how blockchain makes vote tampering not just hard, but mathematically impossible. Trust me, you are not going to want to miss that.